Greeting interwebs, it's Jackie K and welcome for another edition of Let's Go Eevee. I'm just gonna be up in front with this. This is being post-commentated and we're gonna pretend like the audio's all corrupted. In reality, I was streaming but didn't realize that the audio, my commentary audio was significantly lower than the game audio, making it less than desirable to actually try to hear out what's going on. So I'm just gonna post commentate and add music where appropriate, and I guess that's all we can really do about it. How about we just cut ahead to why we're going back into Victory Road? And that would be because there's one major thing that we forgot to get along our way here. I figured cutting to Officer Jenny would be a good roadblock for anyone following along. If you can find where she is, you can follow along from here. There was a random trainer battle I missed and a few other things along the way. But just going down that path, we find ourselves against the legendary bird Moltres. In Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, and of course these games, we find Moltres in the depths of Victory Road. We've kind of already fought and captured two legendary birds before, and they honestly don't behave too differently from this particular one, so hopefully you don't mind me not talking too much about the capture process I go through with this particular one, because I have a whole story relating to Moltres that I feel like this is the best opportunity to bring up. Now, the main point of the story, I didn't bring up where you find Moltres in Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that's because it's nowhere in Victory Road. There's actually an additional area of content exclusive at this point in time to Fire Red and Leaf Green, and they moved Moltres over there. I can kind of get the point of having a legendary bird in Victory Road. It is the most major area that we go through throughout the adventure, and I can definitely see it appealing to people's nostalgia of just trekking their way through a major dungeon, last final frontier before the Pokemon League. Maybe they didn't go out of their way to do any of the optional areas for the other legendary birds at this point, and they just so happen, when they getting lost through the dungeon, stumble upon this magnificent Firebird. And I definitely see the appeal to game design through that in of itself. It kind of makes you go, I wonder if there's any more of these. And that may induce you to actually explore the other dungeons along the way that you might have skipped otherwise. A little weird considering that this is Moltres. Well, we have Articuno and Zapdos. But I guess if you're going through them all as soon as you can find them, it would make a little more sense that Moltres would be the last one, because on your way through Victory Road, it's very possible for Moltres to be the last one if you're getting everything you can as soon as you can. I bring all this up to get that side of the story, the justifications for moving Moltres back into here when it wasn't originally in Victory Road and Fire Red and Leaf Green, because I'm going to spend the rest of this video rambling about Fire Red and Leaf Green and just the fact that I really missed the Sevi Isles not being in these games. In those games, there's an intermission area pretty much after Bane, but before you take Giovanni. They pretty much go on a glorified side quest through a couple isles, completely separated from the Kanto region. In one of these isles, there's an optional region, a volcanic region where Moltres lies. You make your way through this volcanic dungeon, climb your way up to the top, and you face off against Moltres and capture it the same way you would go through a whole dungeon exclusive and based around the theming of Articuno and Zapdos. And unfortunately, I wish I could find more information to back this up, but I remember being told a long time ago that maybe not the whole Sevi Isles, but the first 3 that they make you go to in that in-between time frame between Bane and Giovanni were actually originally supposed to be part of the original Red and Green games, but they were cut content as the game needed to get out for development purposes. And despite not being able to back it up, I only bring this up because that's the biggest justification in the back of my mind of why it just feels wrong for Sevi Isles not to be in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, despite the fact that they were not content in the original Red and Blue, which, and more importantly, Yellow, which the Let's Go games were trying to emulate. They weren't trying to be a remake of Fire Red and Leaf Green. They were trying to recreate the Pokemon Red Blue experience for players that play those games but may have fell out of Pokemon, maybe getting into it because of Pokemon Go or some other sort of medium. So of course it would be very convenient for my logic if this was content originally supposed to be in the Red and Blue games, because they could have implemented it into these games. It could have been just, and not feel out of place for me personally. Maybe I still feel out of place because it never really exists, even if it was planned to be existed at one time. And like people getting back into those games wouldn't care about what they missed out on. But I think it would be a cool way to like introduce new, quote-unquote, new content for them, without it actually being new and actually being able to appeal to a wider demographic of Pokemon fans. And I think part of the reason why I get so fixated about the fact that these games don't have Sevi Isles is because it reminded me of something about the Sevi Isles that I felt was missing way back in the days. But back in the days of Fire Red and Leaf Green, I never considered it a possibility. It was literally impossible, because it would require references to the anime, and back then, like after Pokemon Yellow, I don't feel like you've really actually seen references to the Pokemon anime within the Pokemon games. But then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee come around, they bring back Jesse and James, and just like, man, I really wish that they were in for the Sevi Isles. Specifically because in the post game, after you go for the 3 Isles, you unlock the ability, after you beat the Elite Four and all that, you unlock the ability to go through the other 4 of the Sevi Isles. And there's an optional side quest along the way. It gives the game an excuse to introduce Johto and Hoenn Pokemon without interrupting the flow of Kanto Pokémon of the original game's experience. I have no qualms with the way they ended Team Rocket's arc. Facing off against Giovanni one time at the gym that he used to run, or didn't run. Like, the plot twist of Giovanni being the last gym leader. The final battle against him. And the reform that he has from that battle. I like it because it makes it a great character arc. Also, why I don't like that one extra feature they added in the Heart Gold Soul Silver. But that's a story for another time. Despite the fact that the Giovanni arc ended perfectly, I'm just impressed with how they were able to include more stuff with Team Rocket without it feeling like an intrusion on the closing arc for Giovanni. Specifically because they took the time to focus around like the admins and other members of Team Rocket, including some you don't really hear about too often because they didn't exist until Gold and Silver. We also get a little more backstory on Lorelei because she actually lives on one of the Sevi Isles. So I think that may have been part of their influence for including that otherwise weird intermission with Lorelei just in the middle of your adventure in this game. The fact that they specifically picked Lorelei when like Lance is probably a more popular trainer out of the Elite Four, and they could have spent that time like building Lance's story, but instead they had a quick little reference to Lorelei. So yeah, I just really like the way that the Sevi Isles were handled in general. I know some people find them just unnecessary padding, but honestly, like, if you're going to put padding in the middle of the story, they put it in the perfect area, because don't you think it's a little weird that you jump right from the second last gym leader right to the last? And honestly, like, I think like having like a little side quest handles that, padding that out a little better than just going to the gym one last time and like, we still can't get in, let's go to Professor Oak for no apparent reason. He's gonna give us Mega Stones, but only for 3 starters, which you probably don't have the starters, because your starter in this game isn't a Mega Pokemon, it's Pikachu or Eevee. Yeah. But tangent after tangent after tangent aside, I almost forgot about the whole reason that I brought up why I miss Sevi Isles, and why the fact that Team Rocket came back in this game, but Sevi Isles didn't, is a very unfortunate tragedy. Growing up with the Sevi Isles and seeing just like how they started having Team Rocket introduced with Johto Pokemon, I thought if Jesse and James were in those games, they would definitely bring back Jesse and James for that final area of Sevi Isles. And you actually get to see Wobbuffet. Yeah. All this hype just to say I really miss the fact that they didn't include Sevi Isles in Let's Go Eevee, specifically because I've had childhood fantasies of there being a final confrontation with Team Rocket, and you actually get to see them use Wobbuffet because around the Johto region was when they got Wobbuffet, and it's basically become an iconic part of the duel ever since it was introduced. It's kind of weird to actually think that there was a time period in the Pokemon anime before Wobbuffet was part of it. Because these days it's just Wobbuffet's right alongside Meowth, Jesse, and James, hopping from region to region. Even if it was a Pokemon, even if Wobbuffet wasn't part of that region's Pokedex, it was just too iconic of a part of Team Rocket to not be included. Wait, wasn't there like one season where they actually tried not to have Wobbuffet? Maybe it was a black and white one, because I know that if they were going to do it for any region, it would be the black and white season. I'm not too familiar with the anime, if you couldn't tell. Like, I mostly hear that secondhand from YouTube clips ever since, I forget even when I dropped off the anime, probably somewhere between Johto and Hoenn. Though there's probably times where it was just on TV during the Sinnoh days that I might have saw like a few minutes of it. But point being, like, sometime after Johto region I relied a lot on YouTube and just what friends and acquaintances would talk about the anime to really develop my opinions of it since then. All that said, it's a bit of a stretch to say that the main reason that I missed the Sevi Isles in this game was because of the missed opportunity to actually introduce Wobbuffet as part of Team Rocket's team in a video game. That was the whole reason for the Seviville of this episode, but not the full reason that I missed the Sevi Isles in general. It just brings up my biggest criticism with this game as a whole, and that's the factor that they had all the opportunity to revisit Kanto and actually make it a fresh experience that also appealed to the nostalgia of people who grew up with the Pokemon games. But instead, they kind of leaned more into the nostalgia to the point of taking out certain features that Pokemon fans that grew up with. Again, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing, because a lot of it was a very specific decision choice to simplify the game so players of only the original games, or maybe never played a main series Pokemon game at all, would be able to jump into this game a lot more. A lot of the choices in this game, like including CP, even though it doesn't really mean diddly squat, or the whole gimmick of how catching Pokemon works in this game, even though I highly disagree that this is a good translation of the catching mechanics from Pokemon Go into a main series game. The factor that they were trying to go this way, instead of making a more traditional beat up the Pokemon to slow enough in health and then throw a Pokeball at it. Candy even. All these are factors that they included to make the game more accessible for Pokemon Go players who may have never played a main series game before. So I acknowledge all of that, but I can't help but find it a shame because it's another retread of Kanto that could have been made a lot more fresh, or even a full-fledged Kanto sequel. But now I think if they were to make a new Kanto game, it would feel way too repetitive. The community already gets the Pokemon Company's case for recycling elements from Kanto, whether it be just introducing Pikachu and Charizard again and again and again. Some people would argue that it was still too early, if only because at this time we didn't get an announcement of Sinnoh remakes. There's people out there that were salty already, despite the large amount of time between the last time we visited Kanto and this one. They were freaking salty that we got a game like this before their Sinnoh remake was announced. And if people were already bitter, I can only imagine how bitter they would be if we got yet another remake of the Kanto region that was more in the style of Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or even taking the sequel approach like Black and White 2. As much as I would prefer both over not having the latter, I don't think we're ever going to get the latter because they did the prior. Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu by extension has always been a bittersweet pill because of that. Hopefully I managed to talk about some of the things I like about this game in the mix of complaining about all the things that this game didn't do. I appreciate what they did with the game to try to ease more players into the Pokemon series as a whole. I love the fact that instead of retreading Red and Blue yet again, they just decided to go out and make a remake of Pokemon Yellow itself. A game that just has so much nostalgic value to me that before this game's existence, I was convinced they'd never be able to replicate just because of the anime references. The element of emotions that a couple of the cutscenes were actually able to bring in, like I was talking about when we were going through the Pokemon Tower, I think they actually enhanced that experience. And it's the one time I'm okay with the rival being the way they are, because it just adds they added character arc to the freaking Cubone that Mother died to Team Rocket. That was not an angle that I was expecting them to go for, but I'm happy they did, and so much more. But it's like a road with two distinct paths, because they went down one path. It's too late to retread back and walk through the other one, even if there's things that we like about both of them. So the best thing I can do as a player is just appreciate what this game did do, and hope maybe someday we'll get a video game, maybe not of the Kanto region, but a game that kind of blends the nostalgia and fresh new gameplay elements that I just felt that Heart Gold and Soul Silver did perfectly. Or maybe something else that would get me just as excited. Anyways, hopefully you didn't mind me just talking over all that. It's basically what I was doing on stream anyways, especially that long period of time I was staying doing nothing. That was me trying to get out my final thoughts related to Team Rocket and the Sevi Isles. All I really did besides catch Moltres was equip our team and inventory for the final battle. You might have noticed me teaching the move Fresh to Dultrio here, and I'll probably be messing around with Eevee's move pool to better fit the Elite Four in between parts. Again, sorry for rambling beyond the length of this video about all this. I don't even feel like I got everything out. I feel like I missed a couple things that I don't even get a chance to bring up during the finale and the credits. But I've chewed your ear off pretty long as is, so I'll let y'all go for now. And next episode is time. It's time to take on the Elite Four and make our mark as the Pokemon champion. More importantly, it's finally time to finish a freaking LP of a Kanto game. 5 years since I first started before canceling Yellow vs. Leaf Green. 9 years if we're counting the very first time I played a Kanto game on the channel, but it was a fan game that never got completed. But this time I think we're actually gonna do it. Stay tuned to next time to find out. Take care.